So there's a particular part of your brain that manages self-control. And that part of the brain, it manages self-control for your whole body. So it's not just your reactions and your emotions, but it's everything that you have to control in a day. And people with higher levels of self-control actually are happier. They have a larger network of people. They're more successful and they're more trusted. Go figure, right? You don't have somebody absolutely losing it and screaming at you. You've got somebody who can manage themselves. That increases the level of trust immediately.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My guest here today is Sherri Malouf, who is the president of the Strategic Soft Skills Institute. Sherri, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the podcast.
Delighted to be here.
Tell everyone a little bit more about you, about the company, who you guys help, and what you guys are all about.
Well, the company, has been around for 50 years. This is our 50th anniversary. And over that time, thousands and thousands and thousands of people have been through our sort of flagship program called Positive Power and Influence. And so, I jokingly was just referring it to as we help prevent toxicity in leadership. So that's a lot of what we do is help people understand the impact they're having on others. Me personally, I have traveled all over the world. I've worked in all kinds of cultures, all kinds of industries. I do research. I started out with a bachelor's in economics and law. I've got a master's of philosophy and management research. I've got a PhD in human development. And I wrote a book.
Awesome. Very, very cool. I always like to meet anyone that has written a book as well as an author. It's always cool as well. And we were obviously having a quick conversation before we started the recording, but I found it so interesting that something you brought up is a leader that you were speaking with. And I'll start with here. A leader that you were speaking with, he had some concerns of, hey, how can I avoid becoming toxic in the workplace, which is kind of what you guys are helping them overcome. Why do you think there's such a concern for people that once they become or they get to a position of power, they can go to the dark side and become toxic and not become the leader that they should be? And how do you go about being able to smoothly make sure that they don't become that type of person that they don't wish to be?
So, the thing about toxic leadership is that's generally a personality flaw, because most people don't go there. So, but you can have narcissistic and psychologically abusive leaders. And there's a lot more of them than most organizations want to admit. And so just the fact that this person has asked that says to me that he's not a toxic leader. But he wants to be better at what he's doing. And so, we have this 9-step executive coaching that we do. It's called Fast Track to Leadership. And it starts off with, let's collect data on you. And so we collect a bunch of data on the behaviors. It's not anything else. It's just focusing on a specific set of behaviors. And then I teach them how to do behaviors. And then we talk about, there's all kinds of stuff in that 9 steps. But the last piece of it is, what's your leadership legacy?
Interesting. So is it what they, I really like that. Actually, I want to ask a question about what you said there. Is usually it's a personality thing and kind of who they are. And if they jump into that position of power, and it just gets augmented. Do you think sometimes it can also be the fact that people, and I was actually hearing something about this earlier this morning, but people, they are not used to being in a position of power. So as soon as that does happen, there is maybe a balance that is shifted. So where they're like, oh, I have this power, I have this say in so many things now. So they abuse it, but subconsciously doing it. So do you think that there's also that side of things, or is it usually just a personality?
And it can be. And those people will grow and change out of it. So the people who don't develop good relationship, and that's what my book is, right? By the way,
Okay.
It's called Science in the Leader-Follower Relationship.
Okay, awesome.
People who do not develop strong relationships don't last long. I mean, and there's plenty of research. Jeffrey Pfeffer, he talks about power, and there's a whole thing that he talks about with power that is a little bit stronger than, now in terms of how he talks about it is a little bit stronger, but he's doing it based on who's successful. Okay. So people follow people like him, then they're going to be a little bit more aggressive. But the other, it's a very complex thing, right?
Yeah.
Because it's also driven by the organization, how the organization is structured. So, for example, I was coaching one guy. He was the chief information officer, and he had to support a couple of sales teams, and there was no priority set. So the president didn't set priorities. He didn't want to. He wanted those two sales teams to be competing with each other. But what ended up happening is the CIO got stuck in the middle, and he was the one taking all the flack when stuff didn't work.
Mm.
You know, so there's organizational dynamics that lead behaviors, that cause behaviors as well. So if there aren't clear priorities, if there aren't clearly set goals, if there aren't, if there isn't clarity from leadership, then you're going to see a lot more destructive behavior in the organization.
That's interesting. I like that insight. Thank you for sharing that. And is there a specific type of company that you guys tend to work with, or is it all over the map in who you've helped in the past?
We have a lot of customers who are consumer product companies, but we also have gas and oil. We've got manufacturing. Nick,
All
we
over the
got
place. Yeah.
everybody needs us.
Always, yeah. And do you think there's an aspect of relationship building that a lot of leaders don't do the right way? I've found that from so many conversations, I think trust is always a big thing, right? Hey, I can trust my words with this person. I can be vulnerable with this leader. I can tell them my strengths. I can tell them my weaknesses, and we can work through that together to go to the same direction. But I'm not sure if trust is the only thing. What do you think are some of the mistakes that people make when they're trying to develop great relationships with their team to allow the company to have the impact that it wants?
Well, my book is on exactly that. So
Okay.
it's kind of complicated, but an interesting thing about trust is this, and this is sometimes, and one of the stories that I heard today was just awful about this president of this corporation, and he singled out the woman for the most abuse, but he would yell at people. He would yell and scream at them. If the person said something that he didn't agree with, he would like just laugh in their face. I mean, it was just devastating to hear about this. And so one of the things that I talk about with people is the idea of self-control. So there's a particular part of your brain that manages self-control. And that part of the brain, it manages self-control for your whole body. So it's not just your reactions and your emotions, but it's everything that you have to control in a day. And people with higher levels of self-control actually are happier. They have a larger network of people. They're more successful and they're more trusted. Go figure, right? You don't have somebody absolutely losing it and screaming at you. Um, you've got somebody can manage themselves. That increases the level of trust immediately.
Interesting. If going through that process and having those things increases the level of trust, is there a way to maximize that trust as much as possible? Do you think that that's such a thing, or is just like building throughout the process? It's just time that happens and let things roll as life does.
There's so many things that go into trust. It's not a simple
Yeah,
thing, right?
of course.
So I've got a thing called the implicit social element. So take, for example, what trust is one of those. And that's the implicit social elements are what actually hold, um,
Hmm.
they're just all the things that go into a relationship within an organization between leaders and
Hmm.
followers. And so when uh, things are fair,
Hmm.
now that seems pretty simple, right? It's not. There's three definitions of fairness, and everybody operates on their own definition of fairness. So one definition of fairness could be, uh, everybody's treated equally. Some people don't think that's fair, because what if I've put in more? Oh, well, then I guess it's fair that you should get more.
Hmm.
Or what if I need more? Well, that's fair if you need more,
Yeah.
So again,
So it's contextual.
yeah, it really
Mm.
is.
Very, very interesting. And I wanted to learn a little bit from you. Obviously, you mentioned that today. I'm not sure if it's today, but this year is your 50th anniversary for the company, which is incredible. And not many companies can say the same, right? So I wanted to hear from you along the trajectory of ups and downs and peaks and troughs and adapting and pivoting and many things that happen throughout business. What have been some of the most important lessons that you've learned along the way that really stick with you today?
It's easy to make expensive mistakes, hiring the wrong people,
Hmm.
you know? Um, that can be an expensive mistake. Uh, Sales is so critical. And in our business, most people get their sales through referrals. I mean, it's such a crowded market now for consulting and training and coaching and all that kind of thing. It's a very, very, very crowded, busy market. And so it's hard to get seen. And, that's such a critical piece of the puzzle because referrals just get you so far. Right. So we actually started working a couple of years ago with a company called Quality Consistent Leads. And it was hard. It was hard to get to what he was saying. So he specializes in consultants in this whole area, help them grow their business through cold leads. And so that was just such a shift for us. And these executive roundtables that I was telling you about, that's part of this process. And so we had, 7 people signed up, 4 people came in, and we've got follow-up calls with all 4 people. So being able to do cold leads is huge. Being able to, do cold sales, is a huge piece of the picture.
Yeah.
Just because the market is so crazy. And, most of us got very damaged by COVID.
100%. And I think what you say there is I wanted to highlight it because after speaking with, I don't even know, like 160 leaders, I think, there's always that pattern that referrals, word of mouth, they are so powerful. They are so important and you should maximize them as much as possible, 1,000,000%. But relying on them is very difficult and businesses can go down under right away if there's that only side of things. So I wanted to highlight you and commend you for having that awareness for yourselves and being open to going on a different avenue, but also being willing to test and try and just figure out something new, which is the cold acquisition. Because if you have other avenues for people to come in and do business with, then the business can actually flourish as opposed to a great thing that can sometimes only take you so far. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for highlighting that. And what were some of the as things were growing through the business, how did the challenges from growing the company compare to the challenges that you guys face now? So how are they different, and what are some of those things as well?
I mean, now it's a more complicated sort of, I don't know, it's more complicated in the market because you've got the range of virtual programs, hybrid programs, one-on-one coaching. I mean, there's a broad range of things. And one of the things we've always struggled with is who's our target audience, because we go, well, everybody.
Yeah. You can help everybody. How do you talk to everybody? Right? Yeah.
And so we finally figured out that, and it took us a long time, and it was through this process that our target audience is actually people who are struggling to get promoted, usually highly technical people. And that are struggling to get promoted because while they can be technically very talented, that their ability to interact with others is not all that great.
Interesting. It's the sacrifices that they made led them this direction as opposed. Interesting. So it sounds like you guys are working with the individuals at the individual level, or is it also I guess a B2B model as well?
No, it's B2B. So we have clients. I have one client that we're coming up on 45 years with them.
Oh, wow.
45 years.
It's a lot of time.
Yeah. And 47 years. Sorry.
That's a lot more time.
Our first program that we ran internally for them was in 1978. And I didn't run it, just so you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not that young, but I'm not that old either.
For sure.
But they have a system where we've become a part of their culture because of what we do. And they have some internal trainers, so we certify people internally to deliver programs. They use us as well. But we do annual contracts that, and we train quite a few people internally. And we've got that with a bunch. So some people want to have internal people. Some people just want to use us. But we do a lot of internal programs.
Interesting. And the reason, thank you for sharing. And the reason why I asked that question is because you mentioned that a lot of times you're working with the individuals who are looking to get the promotion, who are looking for that next step. And for some reason that to me sounded like it was like the individuals as opposed to the whole organization, or maybe a department in the organization. So when you guys are helping these companies and you're working with them, there is often maybe that one or two leaders, but it also everything that trickles down from under them. Is that correct? That makes more sense. That makes more sense. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to ask you quickly as well. When it comes to company culture, I think it's such an important thing that allows companies to reach the impact that they like and have the growth that they're looking for. How do you view company culture and building a culture and making sure that the team is on board, going in the same direction with the same mission in mind?
I mean, you know, that's not a simple answer.
I know, yeah, and we don't have 3 hours, so but do your best.
So let's talk. So I have another guy that I've been coaching. Okay,
Okay.
he's a senior person in a quote unquote startup. That it's been around for 10 years.
Okay.
But one of the challenges with growing companies and growing cultures is that you have to understand that you go through different phases, right?
Mhm.
You've got the entrepreneurial phase, and I got a feeling this company was actually kind of stuck in the entrepreneurial phase, because then there's systems and processes you put in place and all that kind of stuff. And so there's all these structures and stuff that you have to put in place in order so that you can have that trust of you as a leader. So there's transparency, there's, communication about, how decisions are made. There's so many different pieces to the puzzle that equal the culture.
Mm.
But really, if you look at it, the culture of any organization is created by one leader at a time. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is you can have some great people in parts of the organization. And then you can have some people who are horrible. But because they're really good at their job, or they're technically amazing, or they bring in the big bucks, they do a lot of sales, their abusive behavior is tolerated. And once that behavior is tolerated, it spreads through the organization because everybody says, oh, it's okay to be a jerk. So, it's something that some companies very intentionally grow, and they're the healthier ones. So if there was an index, an investment index that was based on the amount of money that companies invested in their people, right?
Interesting.
Well, how much training they did. And those companies actually outperformed other companies.
Very interesting. I'm noting that one down. I'm using that in many conversations that I have in the future. So thank you. That's awesome. And Sherri, I have two final questions here for you. And it's a question that kind of has become a pillar of every single podcast I've been asking it to everybody, and this time it will be no different. So we'll start with that one. Let's say you had a phenomenal magic wand, Sherri, and you could just wave this amazing wand, and it could just solve one thing, one challenge, one obstacle, whatever it might be within the business that would make you reach your growth goals much, much faster. Oftentimes there's just one. Sorry, oftentimes there are many, but for this question, you only get one thing. What's the one thing that you want to solve?
It actually is the cold sales piece. We've been around for so long. We have tons of different models for growing. We've got partners all over the world. We've got partners that sell here. So we've done just about everything. From a sales standpoint, a marketing standpoint. And again, it's always so crowded. But I have something that might happen that's kind of fun to think about. So there could be a Dr. Sherri bot.
Interesting.
So that people could subscribe to it and have a coach 24/7.
Very, very cool. Very cool. Are you familiar with I would assume you are, but again, I have learned to never assume anything for anyone in any aspect of life. But are you familiar with Tony Robbins? Yeah, I believe they're also doing a Tony bot because
Are they?
yeah, Tony is not going to be around here forever, right? I think he's
Yeah.
I don't think he's that old. I think he's around 62 or something along those lines. So he's not old. But like they know the time is coming, right? So I think they're also doing a Tony bot so that people can still maintain that. I'm not sure if that's out or if it will be out anytime in the future, but that reminded me of it. So I wanted to say that. That's awesome.
He's a little more famous than me, so
Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit.
I'm
No.
infamous.
Of course.
And famous.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. And then final question that I have here for you, Sherri. It's actually not a question from me. It's a question from our last guest to you that actually had no idea who you were. So are you ready for the question?
Yes.
Here's what they wanted to ask. What is a belief or principle that you had when starting out that was fundamentally wrong and that you eventually had to give up on or change your perspective?
I think I trusted people a lot. And you know, we're talking a long time ago. Um, and it's not that I've moved to not trusting people, but it's more, I want to be more educated about the people I partner with, the people I hire, all that kind of thing. And so it's again, it's not distrust, but it's more of an education process.
Being you making sure you do research, homework, making sure that you get to know them, their values, all those things. Is that what you're? It sounds like that's what you're saying, but I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very, very cool. Sherri, thank you so much for your time. This has been such a great conversation. Where should people go if they want to learn a little bit more about you, about the company, or maybe about that book of yours that you mentioned?
Well, the book's on Amazon, so that's easy to find there. You can just Google my name and science, the leader follower relationship. I'm on LinkedIn. Again, just Google Sherri Malouf. And then also Strategic Soft Skills Institute.
Amazing.
Just
Thank you so much.
SRPW.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sherri. I'll obviously leave everything down below here as well if anyone wants to check it out. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. It was great to talk to you.
Great as well.